Okay, and at this point, I want to direct your attention to exhibit number 19.
And Attorney Bullock, that was Exhibit 8. You noted that? Exhibit 8? The one we
No,
just...
what we were looking at was exhibit 18.
Exhibit 18, thank you.
And now we're going into exhibit 19. All right, so looking at exhibit number 19, do you recognize this document?
I do.
Okay, and what is this document?
This document is my written summary of the verbal conversation that I had with Mr. Michael regarding my findings of the investigation.
Okay, and it looks like it was sent on March 4th, 2016. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct.
And it says in the first paragraph, a couple of sentences in, quote, as we discussed on February 29, 2016, I did not identify any harassment or retaliation. However, the work environment was not a comfortable work environment to be working in. What do you mean by that?
I didn't identify any harassment or retaliation had taken place, but certainly there were challenges in the work environment. And so I could understand why he did not want to continue to work with the colleagues at that branch.
Okay, were the challenges just for Mr. Michael or was it for any other colleague?
It seemed to be just with Mr. Michael.
And did anybody at that time express any frustrations with Mr. Michael?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and what were those frustrations that you can recall?
There were frustrations in that anytime there was assistance being offered or if they were stepping in on his interactions with the customers, there seemed to be either frustration or an escalation about the incident.
Okay, and was that an escalation by Mr. Michael or escalation by the other colleagues?
By Mr. Michael.
And then a little bit further down, it says you stated that you were relocated to the Pier Festival Foods branch, and we are hopeful that you will find that to be a successful work environment. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Touch on that later. All right, so now let's go to exhibit number 26. All right, so showing you respondents exhibit number 26. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
Okay. And what is this?
These are my interview notes from the conversation that I was having with Mr. Michael about his work environment concerns.
Okay, so is this part of your investigation?
Yes.
Okay, and so that we're clear, was this the investigation uh, concerning what we were just talking about, his February 2016 um, internal complaint into HR?
Yes, this.
Okay,
This was his concerns about his work environment.
all right, all right. And is this first page your notes of your conversation with Mr. Michael or with somebody else?
This was all with Mr. Michael.
Okay, all right. And I'm going to turn to the second page of this. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And this is, of course, still from your conversation with Mr. Michael.
That is correct.
Okay. And do you see where it says facial gesture or gestures?
Yep.
What is that note about?
He was commenting that during some customer interaction, he felt that Barb was making facial gestures and just, why are you doing this? And then Barb took over the transaction.
Okay. All right. All right. So I want to scroll through a few pages on this and go to the um, document in your notes that we have base stamped at the bottom as R074.
Okay.
Okay. So in the middle of this page, it says the peer, I'm happy. What is that note in reference to?
Um, at the time that I was speaking with Willie, he was working at the De Pere office, and so he said that he was happy there.
Okay. And was he formally assigned to the peer office at that point?
No.
I want to go a few more pages into this and go to the part in your notes where at the bottom we have it base stamped as R077.
Okay.
All right, so kind of looking towards the middle of this page, you see where it says Kyle is like it looks like son.
Hmm.
Okay, what was that comment about?
Mr. Michael had commented that Barb had stated, that Kyle is like her son.
Okay, all right, and I know we have discussed this earlier, but who is Kyle and who is Barb?
Um, Barb McDonald would have been a relationship banker at the branch, and Kyle Paulson would have been, I believe he was a universal banker both of them were at the Green Bay location working with Mr. Michael.
Okay. And then I want to go down a little bit further on this page. And do you see where it says, I am interested in transferring to another branch? Do you see that?
Yes,
Okay. And earlier you testified that at the time that you talked to him, he was at the De Pere branch. Is that correct?
that is correct.
And he said he was happy there.
Hmm.
And was he ultimately transferred to the De Pere branch?
He was.
And was this transfer, back up, why was he transferred?
It was evident that we had challenges within the work environment, and so we wanted to give both sides of the equation an opportunity to be more successful and have a more respectful work environment. And so um, we had an opportunity at the De Pere location. Mr. Michael was in a float position, so Nate had the opportunity to move him from the float position, which he may work at any of Nate's branches, to place him on a regular basis at the De Pere branch. And so um, we did so.
Okay. All right. So I want to go a few more pages into your notes and look at the document that's base stamp at the bottom as R079.
Okay.
Okay, so up top it says Barb, then it has dash 21816. What is this?
These are my interview notes from my conversation with Barb, again, regarding the work environment.
Okay. And this is all in connection with the internal complaint that Mr. Michael filed with the HR Advisory Center?
Yes, we wanted to see, were there other concerns within the work environment? Were others feeling the same as Mr. Michael was? So we wanted to have conversations with all of the colleagues in the branch at that time to see how they were feeling about their work environment.
Okay. And if we go down a little bit further, do you see where it says extremely stressful?
Mhm.
And what was that in reference to?
Just having, with some of the recent incidents that had taken place at the branch, the work environment had become extremely stressful.
And from whose perspective was this?
This was from Barb's perspective.
Okay. And did she discuss like what was the source of that stress? Like if it was any one person or a process or being overworked or what?
No, she had referenced, as you can see, I have new colleague and had stated that there was causing some disruptions. Um, and so that's where she was referencing some of the concerns as far as not willing to take the coaching, being argumentative.
Okay. And was this in reference to Mr. Michael or somebody else?
Now, this was in reference to Mr. Michael.
And then it goes down and it says a little bit further down, not willing to take coaching.
Correct.
What's that note about?
So again, as he was a newer colleague, I think he was only with us a couple, 2, 3 months at that point. Um, and so she had much more experience. So, she would want to offer her assistance to help him with transactions. And he wasn't willing to accept that assistance and or guidance that she was providing.
Okay. And then if you go down a little bit further in your notes, it says arguing, going to yelling loudly. What was that in reference to?
Just the continuation. I think there was a specific example where um, Mr. Michael was trying to cash a check that was $6,000. His cashback limit was 1,000. He needed to call for approval in order to cash that check, and so there was some loud discussion taking place about, whether did you call, getting him to call for the approval, and then what he, actually processing the transaction.
Okay. And then it says yelling loudly. Did Barb indicate who was yelling loudly?
Um, it was my understanding that it was Mr. Michael that was yelling loudly.
Okay. And then just in the same kind of area, if you look down just a few bullet points, it says he literally screamed at Kyle. Do you see that?
Yes,
Okay, who is the he in this note?
she would have been referring to Mr. Michael.
All right, let's go to the next page. In a few notes down, it says Sam and I stressed have to work with Willie. Do you see that?
Hmm.
Who is Sam?
Samantha Pugh is, she was the assistant manager at the Green Bay branch at the time.
Okay. And did she indicate, and this is Barb, is it still Barb's?
Yes, these are still Barb's, my interview notes from Barb's conversation.
Okay. And did she indicate why her and Sam were stressed?
Again, just some of the issues that come up in working with Mr. Michael.
Okay. Um, let's go down a little bit further on this page. You see where it says status quo? And right underneath that, it says fearful for the peer branch. Do you see that note? What was that note about?
Mr. Michael, they were aware that he was transferring to the Dupere branch, and I think that was happening, a very short time frame after my conversation. And she was just commenting that she was fearful for what they might experience there based upon what she had experienced.
Okay. And then there's a note a little bit further down that says shouldn't feel unsafe in their work environment. What's that about?
And that's where Barb was starting to feel unsafe within her work environment and said that other colleagues shouldn't have to feel unsafe.
Okay. And did she indicate uh, who or what was the source of her feeling unsafe?
Again, this was in regards to Mr. Michael.
Okay. Now let's go to the next page. All right. So it says up top, Connor dash 21716. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. What is this about?
These are my interview notes with Connor O'Hagan, again, another colleague that worked at the Green Bay branch.
Okay. And do you see where it says, it looks like it was 21716? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. In all of these notes, did you take them on the same day that you talked to the colleague?
Correct. As I'm having the conversation, I'm taking these notes.
Okay. All right. And this is all in February of 2016, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So, in your notes from your conversation with Connor, a few sentences down, it says no concerns, not anything that has impacted me. What's that note about?
Um, Connor seemed to be doing fine in the work environment. He didn't have any challenges interacting with the other colleagues.
Okay. And did he make any observations about interactions between other colleagues outside of him?
Yes, he did indicate that there have been some incidents that had taken place in the work environment with elevated voices that he could hear the voices being elevated.
Okay. And is that reflected in your note? A few, two sentences down, it says elevated voice can hear
Mhm.
business being impacted.
Correct.
Next, it looks like a little bit further down, it says Kyle 21716. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that?
Again, these are my interview notes from Kyle that were taken that day.
Okay, and if you go down a little bit, it says, I think it says cornered me, yelling at me. Am I reading that correct?
Correct.
Okay, what's that note about?
I don't remember the specific interaction, but Kyle was feeling that he was cornered and that Mr. Michael was yelling at him.
Okay, and then the very next line it says doesn't seem to, and then there's nothing after that. You know what goes there?
I believe that the conversation was about doesn't seem to be receptive to feedback assistance.
Okay, and then it says right underneath that, yell, get in their face. Do you see that?
Again, his perception was that Mr. Michael would yell, get in their face.
Okay. And I want to go to the next page. It looks like at least the top of this document is a continuation from your notes from your conversation with Kyle. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And do you see where it says just snaps on him, I believe?
That there would be times that he felt that Mr. Michael just snapped at him.
Okay. All right. Now I want to go to, I guess, the next section on this page. It says 21816 Samantha, assistant manager. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and what are we looking at here?
These are my interview notes from Samantha Pose. She was the assistant manager at the Green Bay branch.
Okay. And do you see here where it says stressful, self, insubordination? I can't make out that next word. What is that?
I think couple.
Couple. Then it says yelling, mocking, wouldn't take instruction slash feedback. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what were these notes in reference to?
Again, Mr. Michael and some of the interactions that she had with him.
So she was reporting these issues, insubordination, stress, yelling, mocking, as issues that she had with Mr. Michael. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I had asked about their work environment, what had taken place. And so she said Willie Michael um, had been making the work environment stressful, showing insubordination, yelling, mocking, wouldn't take instruction feedback.
Okay. And despite all of these reports that the bank received about Mr. Michael, did it terminate his employment at that time?
We did not.
And again, he was transferred over to the Pier branch, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And would that, in your mind, have given him a fresh start?
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to turn to the page in your notes that we have base stamped as R084. So it's the last page.
Okay.
What is this?
These are my notes that I used as my talking points when I was verbally delivering my investigation findings to Mr. Michael.
Okay. All right. And looking at the last note here, it says relocated to new office, fresh start with colleagues. Is that
Correct.
correct? All right.
That
And
is correct.
is that in reference to what you were just talking to me about in connection with the
Correct.
fresh start?
Yep, that he would be working on a regular basis at the De Pere office, and we hoped that he would have a fresh start working with a brand new team. He'd have consistent management there under Megan, and that he could be successful there.
Okay. So throughout his employment at the bank, did he ever complain about being treated differently because of his race or his national origin or his color?
No,
Okay. Did anyone else at the bank tell you that there was a concern that Mr. Michael was being treated differently based on his race or national origin or color?
no.
Do you know what an annual employee survey is?
Yes.
Okay, well, what is that?
On an annual basis, we would have a third-party vendor send out a survey to our colleagues. It was done anonymously. There were questions to answer regarding the organization as a whole, their work environment, how they were feeling, along with questions to answer about their leadership. They also had the ability to add comments.
Okay, in those comments, is there, I think you said the survey itself was anonymous. Were those comments anonymous as well?
Correct. It was purposely intended to be handled by the third-party vendors so that Associated Bank did not receive any identifying information. And in fact, the survey instructions requested that the colleagues submit their comments so that they could not be identified.
So if Mr. Michael or anybody else would have complained about, working conditions in this annual employee survey, uh, the bank would not have been able to attribute that to Mr. Michael. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So we've talked about, Mr. Michael's exchanges with colleagues at two different branches. Did you notice any consistent themes in those interactions that he had with colleagues at different branches?
Yeah, that it typically involved customer interactions. Mr. Michael wanted to be successful in his role. He wanted to put forth, good effort in front of the customer, but he seemed to be very resistant and hesitant that if he was getting assistance with that, or if someone was interjecting in his conversations with the customers, that would trigger an incident to occur.
Okay. Are you aware of Mr. Michael applying to any promotions or different positions at the bank during his employment?
Yes, I had heard that he had applied for several positions.
Okay. Okay. Are you aware of him applying for a financial intelligence senior analyst role?
Yes, I believe he applied.
Okay. Do you know when he applied offhand?
No, I don't have his application date.
Okay. And do you know who was hired into that? Do you know when that position was filled?
I believe that was filled in September of 2016.
Okay. Um, and it looks like he may have applied for a financial analyst role as well. Is that consistent with your understanding?
Yes, it is.
And do you know when that position was filled?
I believe that was December of 2016.
Okay. And then finally, it looks like he applied for an assistant manager position. Um, in 2017. Do you know when that position was filled?
I believe that was early August of 2017.
Okay. At this point, I want to show you exhibit number 30. Let me know when you got it.
Okay.
All right, well, what is this?
This appears to be colleagues that separated employment from the organization in the Green Bay market.
Okay. And were all of these involuntary terminations?
Two of them are not, the others are involuntary.
Okay. Of the involuntary terminations, what is the race of those who were involuntarily terminated, according to this?
White and African American. So there were 9 that were either white or African. Oh, I'm sorry, African Indian or Alaskan Native.
Okay. So out of all of the people on this list, 9 were non-African American or non-Black. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and only 1 was Black or African American, correct?
That is correct.
And it looks like that one person was Willie Michael, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you personally been involved in other terminations for unprofessional behavior in the workplace?
I have been.
And can you explain in kind of summary fashion what that has been?
I terminated a white male in September of 17 for being confrontational and displays of inappropriate behaviors within the work environment where the colleagues were unsafe. Um, in October of 2018, I'm sorry, that was September of 18. In October of 18, I termed another male white colleague for confrontation with another colleague. And then in September of 2019, I termed a Black African American female who had inadvertently sent a threatening text to her supervisor.
So let's go now to exhibit number 29. Okay, do you recognize this document?
I do.
Okay. And what is this?
This appears to be information regarding position and current hourly wage, hire date. This would be information taken from our payroll systems regarding colleagues in the Green Bay market.
Okay, and it looks like it was hourly rate as of it says term date or 9/30/2017. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and is this information accurate to your knowledge?
yes,
Okay, and is Mr. Michael listed on this list?
he is.
Okay, where is he listed?
He is ID number 419767, so he's about in the middle there.
Okay, in the middle of the page.
Yeah,
It
and
looks like it has, go ahead, I'm sorry.
his hourly wage is the 1391.
Okay, perfect. And was his rate the lowest rate on here?
It was not.
Okay. It looks like this document also has the race, ethnicity of other colleagues as well.
Yes, it does.
And it looks like he was paid more than several white colleagues or non-black colleagues. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay. All right. At this point, I do not have any further questions, but I would like to introduce into evidence all of the exhibits that we went over today. I understand some may have already been entered.
Yeah, I believe the only two that had not been entered prior to today were R26 and R28. So those were the investigation notes. R26 was the investigation notes from February of 2016, and then R28 were the investigation notes from 2017.
And
Mr.
George,
Yeah.
those are the handwritten note, right? The R26 and R28. Those are the
Yeah, those
handwritten.
were the handwritten notes that she was talking about, not just from your conversations, but the other interviews that she had done with other colleagues. Did you have any objections, Mr. Michelle, to my receiving either R26 or R28?
I definitely do, Judge. The reason is those handwritten note, they were not produced. They were denied first. They've been already given to me. They were produced sometime in 2021. And what Attorney Bullock's mentioned actually, it's just they found it. Now they just find those because of the COVID-19. Now they find those. First, it was said to be already given to me, but then produced afterward, after I went through motion, etc. Then they found that was, of course, after that I give quite a lot of information with what we have the sit down with Mr. Bullock that I give him information, and after denying that he giving to me, then produce those. That's my objection there, Judge, on those, And also, if I may, I object to all the statement that was made written about them. I object to all of those that's there in those also.
Okay.
Whatever occurred. Yeah.
So, Judge, if you want, I can respond.
If you want, go ahead.
Okay, sure. So I don't think those were evidentiary objections. The documents were produced. The circumstances upon them being produced were explained, and correspondence and discovery related items. From an evidentiary standpoint, the documents were properly authenticated and testified about. So foundation was set. And, whether or not Mr. Michelle disagrees with the information that's in there and objects to the information that's in there, that's certainly his, prerogative to do. But that is no basis for keeping out evidence.
All right. The objections noted this document, and I think kind of getting to what Attorney Blux had mentioned before, it really just goes towards, what their impression was, not necessarily that what is written in there is true, but more just what the impression was of Miss Coddington as to what was told to her by others.
Okay.
You've
Yeah.
been raising your hand, Mr. Michelle. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Judge, for clarifying that. And I just want to let that you are aware that there were a lot of argument made by Attorney Bullocks. Actually, those has been previously given to me. That's a lot of document, and only to tell me, well, they were found then on January 21st. So again, I understand your point. Thank you for that. That it just what he said is he alleged he did do as an investigation and write those notes, but I object to everything therein that's in them as not factual.
Okay.
The judge, if I may, and I'm sorry, you kind of cut out on my end. I think it was my connection. Did you say that those documents are going to be received?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I didn't hear that clearly. Thank you.
No, that's fine. That's fine to get that clarified. Mr. Michelle, did you have any questions for Ms. Coddington, or Attorney Bullocks, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I was just wondering, and everybody can stay on. I just need to take a quick break,
Okay.
2-3 minutes max, if that's okay.
Sure, we can take a short break, and then Mr. Michelle, if you have any questions for Ms. Coddington, when we get back, you can ask your questions of Ms. Coddington then.
Certainly, I do. Yeah.
All right, so let's take like a 5-minute break. It's about almost 10 to. Let's come back at 5 to 3.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Back on the record after taking a short break. And as I said, Mr. Michelle, if you have any questions for Ms. Coddington, you can go ahead and ask your questions at this point.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, Mrs. Coddington.
Good afternoon.
Right. Okay, so I'm just going to have a few questions that I will ask you, and that should be it. All right. Mrs. Coddington, for the whole hearing that we were having, that's the third day, you sat through everything, right, and pay attention. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So overall, with all the testimonies, you have a recollection of everything that kind of said, right?
Do my best. Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to take this in chronological order. Yeah, it's make it a little bit easier for me. What I want to ask you first, Mrs. Coddington, is that throughout the whole investigation involving me, you were integrally part of it from every detail of it, right? You know every detail with every other managers, everybody involved.
Objection just in terms of form. The word investigation, not sure which investigation Mr. Michael's referring to.
Rephrase that. Let me just rephrase that. Mrs. Coddington, part of my complaint, the whole investigation from 2016 until my firing, you were part of all of it. Is that correct?
I was not part of the very first, the January investigation. I was involved with everything going forward from February forward. Yes.
Okay, that's exactly. Thank you. And from there on, you are part of all decision, that were being taken, right?
I'm making recommendations. Yes. Gathering facts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So prior to my complaint to you in February 2016, have you received any type of complaint from anybody else?
From other colleagues?
Yes, in general, in my regard.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. So
I will
have I
listen.
received complaints against
Listen.
you?
Prior to me filing the complaint to you at HR, have you received any type of complaint whatsoever regarding me?
I did not.
You didn't. As a matter of fact, those complaints, they were being raised at the time of your investigation. Is that correct?
Objection just formed. I'm not.
Are you talking about the individual complaints? The complaints from other individuals were being raised at the time that she was interviewing people? Is that what you're getting
Yes,
at?
that is correct. Yes.
So is that true, Ms. Coddington, that when you were giving or when you were interviewing individuals about his complaint, that's when the complaints came up from other individuals about Mr. Michelle?
No, because the concerns had been raised with the manager prior to HR getting involved. But when I was speaking with the colleagues regarding their work environment, yes, then they were sharing concerns about their interactions with Willie.
Okay. So I want to be clear. There were no complaints against me at all prior when I asked for you to investigate. There were any other form of complaint. That's what I want a yes or no, please.
Objection asked and answered. I think that was just answered.
Well, I think maybe to his point, I could maybe just get some clarification. There, if I'm understanding your testimony correctly, you had not received any complaints about Mr. Michelle prior to your investigating his complaint, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. And in my complaint to you, I did raise a specific issue regarding being assaulted and being feared with Kyle. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
That is not correct. I never mentioned that to you. Okay. And with that, what I will do is to, with all of those exhibit numbers, Judge, I have that for myself. I write it at exhibit 2, but it is the formal complaint that I write to HR. I can't recall which exhibit you put it here, Mr. Bullocks.
Sure.
It's the February 5th email.
Yeah, that was exhibit number, I believe, 18.
Okay.
Respondent exhibit number 18.
Okay, let me bring that up.
Thank you.
Okay, it should be on the screen now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just going to scroll down to page 4 of it. Will it is the same for you?
So that would be page 4, which would be the second page of your written summary. Is that the correct page, or do you?
This, let me get scroll up a little bit. Just one again. The page have to go increasing. So let's go to 3.
Okay.
Yes, and we go to 4. That's the one. Yes, that's that
Okay.
page. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Coddington, you recognize this is the formal complaint that I made to you? You recognize that document?
Yes.
Okay. So on that page, and you can read it through, I believe you have it in front of you. I will read it there on page 4, and I will start there. It was about that point that Kyle washed in to the back office where we were talking and said in short, "You are too loud, I can hear you up front," which in reality was not. It was a preface on an attempt at assaulting me. At that point, I can see in Kyle's face that he was angry and ready to take action. I then said, "Okay, Kyle, we were loud. I am going to close the office door for a moment." Kyle objected loudly. "No, you are not. You are going to tell a lie. I am not going to let you speak with her that way." At that point, it was Bob speaking, but as soon as Kyle stepped in, she did not say a word to the whole short conversation. I then pretend everything was still okay and hold the door handle and told Kyle that I'm going to close the door for some privacy. As soon as I hold the door, Kyle immediately took his fighting posture, put his right foot blocking the door, and ready to attack me. My hand had slightly touched the door handle, and it was jammed tight against the wall. I saw the situation escalating, and in fear at that point, I suddenly stepped back deeper into the office and said, "I'm going to call Nate." I will stop right here. Mrs. Coddington, you read all this. And again, I know yeah, you read all this, right?
Yes.
So I did mention, at least here, I did mention to you Kyle assaulting me, or I'm afraid of Kyle.
No, you mentioned that Kyle put his foot in to stop the door, but that was not assaulting you.
So this is, if you read this, if you go to the first, from here and on, I do not mention Kyle. Came to the door and, came to the door. I asked him, I'm going to close it, and then put his foot and blocking it. You don't see none of that?
No, I see that. But Kyle
Okay.
put his foot in the door,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no indication that he physically touched you.
Okay. And I also mentioned here clearly that I was in fear of that Kyle entering and pretty much block the door, tell me that I have to stop or else. Is that right?
Yes, those were your words.
Okay. And when I talked with you then, to go back, when I talked to you, you mentioned I never mentioned that regarding my fear of Kyle. Do you still deny that when I talk with you, when we talk now? That's where I'm going now. You mentioned I never mentioned the assault by Kyle.
Objection mischaracterizes previous testimony.
Well, I think she did just testify that he never mentioned it, so I'll let her answer the question. Go ahead.
No, again, there was no mention of Kyle assaulting you when we spoke.
I did not also mention that was my concern. That's why I filed the complaint, because I'm in fear when we talk.
You indicated that you felt that you were being harassed in the work environment. You did not specifically call out Kyle.
Let me be one last question on that point. I did not mention to you that I was in fear also. Did I mention that?
Not during our conversation, no.
Not in our conversation. Okay. And when you read that part, of my written complaint to you, you can notice, you did at least acknowledge that, or you notice that I mentioned that I am in fear and the situation is escalating. That is why that I complained. Did you at least get that here?
Yes, you do use the word fear in your written summary.
Okay. And things were escalating.
That's
Okay.
what you indicate, yes.
And I'm just going to go back. Earlier, when you talk with your attorney under his questioning, with the handwritten note, is there anywhere you did address my complaint being in fear of Kyle or Kyle assaulting me of any way? Did you address that?
It was it was included as part of your investigation. We thoroughly investigated, but this incident that happened at the end of January.
Miss Codington, I beg to, did you say frivolous or?
No, previously.
Previously? Okay. So to get to my question then, to you, if you can answer by yes or no, will make it better. During your investigation, did you ever mention to Kyle anywhere on the handwritten note regarding anything, me being in fear and with assaulting me? And yes, me being in fear that he attacked me. Did you ever mention anything that me being in fear of him?
No, it was not discussed in our conversation.
Okay, you never addressed that. Okay, thank you. During your investigation, with the handwritten note also that you have, is there anywhere you address that with the other party, with Barbara now, that I complained of her keep pushing me around, physically putting her hands on me?
When I was conducting the investigation, I had spoken with Nate regarding
Ms.
what
Codington,
had happened.
I have to stop you to keep it short. You can answer by yes or no. If there's anywhere on your handwritten note where you ask those specific questions and get answers from them.
I had asked the question of Nate. I did not ask the question of you.
Let me make myself clear with that question. I'm not getting an answer. In your whole handwritten note and investigation regarding back in 2016 with Barbara, is there any way where you write, where you ask them regarding the allegation of me saying that they're touching me, they're physically pushing me, putting hand on me? Is there
No,
any?
it was previously investigated by another
Thank you,
advisor.
Thank you, ma'am. If it's no, you don't have it there, that's all I want to hear. There's nowhere on that age. Okay. All right. And also, earlier, while Attorney Bullock's asking you questions, you make mention rather that Barbara was in fear of me, feel unsafe. Is that correct?
Those were her words, yes.
Thank you. Okay. You also, and previously when we talked, you mentioned when I complained to you, when we talk about this complaint, you mentioned that I specifically, you remember that I asked you, all I want is a transfer. Is that correct?
I believe I asked what you would look at for a resolution.
And my question is answered by yes or no, please. That it was my request, a relief or a solution will be to get a transfer.
You commented that you would want to transfer.
And okay, that's a yes, ma'am, please. Ms. Codington?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And beside that, there's no other relief that I asked for.
No.
And Mrs. Codington, as part of your role, and I know it's a lot you mentioned earlier and previously, part of your role is to protect, I want to put that right, a part of your role is to making sure if there is an issue, to bring a solution to it, right? In general, is that right? If there's an
That is
issue,
correct.
that's correct. Okay. And with that, if that's involved harassment, threat, fear, you will be involved in those also, right? To make the right decision.
That is
Right?
correct.
That is correct. Okay. And are you fair in your investigation?
I am.
Okay. Do you have any bias because you're also because any bias because of legal consequences that might, you know, any
No.
type of legal, yeah. So you don't. So there's no bias at all. Okay. And I'm just going back here again. I have it as exhibit 3. I'm gonna see which one you have it as. One second. Judge, Mr. Bullock's have it as differently. I have my exhibit 3. That's the memo that after my transfer, an email from Ms. Cottington that I want to bring in, please.
Let me just see here.
Just have it as.
Is that 19? I don't know. Let me see.
I'm sorry, which exhibit was it? Which one are we talking about?
Is
I
it
have it as
is it
3.
this
It's the
one?
memo after. Yes, I believe this is it. Yep, it's a memo. Thank you. That's what I will use now.
Yeah, so that's 19.
Thank you. And Ms. Cottington, you can see that document now?
I can.
Okay. This document, and I'm going to read it briefly for a refresher. You mentioned this memo is to follow up on your concern of a hostile work environment created by your coworkers at the Green Bay Festival East Branch. You mentioned, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and we appreciate the information you provided to us. As we discussed on February 29, 16, I did not identify any harassment or retaliation. However, the work environment was not comfortable work environment to be working in. You stated that you are relocated to the DPA Festival Foods branch, and we're hopeful that you will find that to be a successful work environment for you. An investigation into your concern has been completed, and I can share with you that appropriate action has been taken. Because action with our colleagues are confidential, I'm unable to inform you specifically what action we're taking. However, please be assured that your concern was taken seriously and act upon appropriately. I will stop here. Mrs. Cottington, with that document, okay, you mentioned in it that action were taking, okay, for my concern. Could you elaborate on that? What action that we're taking?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Are you asking about in the second paragraph, appropriate actions taken?
Yes, right there. So what action that we're taking?
Again, that information is confidential.
You can answer the question. It's for purposes of the hearing, it's relevant.
I believe there were coaching conversations taking place with the other colleagues involved.
That's the appropriate action, ma'am? Conversation with the other colleagues?
Correct.
Okay. You also mentioned there, it was not a good work environment for me. And is that correct?
That is correct.
You said it was not a good work environment, and that's regarding my transfer, right? That's why I get transferred. Is that right?
You were having challenges with the other coworkers at the Green Bay, so we wanted to move you into a different work environment with different coworkers to see if you could have a more positive work environment.
Thank you. Okay. And that's what you meant by that. Okay. And you also mentioned that throughout your direct from your attorney that Barbara McDonald, one of the person that I complained for, was afraid of me, feel unsafe toward me.
Those were her words, yes.
That's what, yep. Okay. Now, you are aware that after my transferring to the DPL branch for a fresh new start, at the very first part, you follow up with me. You're aware that everything was good, right? When you follow up with me.
Yes.
Is that a yes, ma'am? Okay. Everything
Yes.
was good. I was happy, I believe you mentioned earlier, right?
Correct.
Okay. You're also aware sometime afterward, Miss Barbara McDonald get promoted. Are you aware of that?
I wasn't involved with that. No.
That's not my question, though. I say, are you aware of that?
Yes, through all of this,
Thank-
yes, I
thank
did
you.
hear she was promoted.
You are also aware that Barbara McDonald was transferred to the DPL bench and has to work with me after that. You are aware of that?
She was not transferred to the De Pere location. She may have worked there on an occasion, but she was not transferred to the De Pere branch.
And that is my question. So that is correct. She has worked at the other branch afterward, after I get transferred, sometime after. Yes or no?
Could be. I wasn't involved in the work schedules.
Ma'am, it's a straight question. Yes or no that she worked?
She
the
said she
DPL.
doesn't know, Mr. Michelle. She just said she's not aware of the work schedules.
Okay.